What are ways in which we can harness or come back to that place of easefulness or that to digest it or just to recalibrate and regulate in that moment? What are just some easy steps?
Yeah. Well, one of the most common traps that we fall into in those moments when we get triggered, something gets stirred up is we, first of all, it happens as a feeling because feelings are
Mm,
much more primal. First we have feelings and then we have thoughts. Thoughts,
mm,
evolutionary, they come much later. So there's way more neuron pathways that go from our feeling system to our thinking system than there are from our thinking system to our feeling system.
mhm,
So first we have a feeling. When we get triggered, we get upset. Boom, I have an emotion. That happens about half a second before I'm even consciously aware of it. So it's we can't say don't get triggered or we can't say just stay zen. That doesn't
turn it
work.
off. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
that never works. So we have the emotion, and then from the emotion come come thoughts, and the
Hmm.
thoughts are usually they're the problem. Because the emotion
Mm,
itself is not a problem. Emotions, they come and they go. They're like, sometimes the ocean is calm, sometimes the ocean is turbulent. But the thoughts, they can really poison us because maybe something happens and now I feel unsafe. Someone raises their voice, and I have this pattern match inside of me. There's a part of me that remembers, this young part of me probably remembers. There's been times when people around me have raised their voice, and when that happened, it all fell to shit. I felt unsafe.
hmm.
Things fell apart. Terrible things happened. So now I'm having this massive emotional response to someone raising their voice, whether or not there's real danger in this moment or not.
Hmm.
And the thoughts that piggyback on that distress are things like, yeah, look, this person is being impossible, or look, this just goes to show that this relationship is not going to work, or this environment is not for me, or that I can't find safety anywhere, or people never understand me. And whatever those thoughts are, they have the potential to damage my self-image. They start to affect my sense of who I am and what's possible for me in the world. And they start to damage my sense of how the world is and whether safety is actually possible or what the intentions of other people actually are.
Mm.
So the image I use a lot is you think about a cow pat and then mushrooms growing out of the cow pat.
Hmm.
Not the magic mushrooms, but poisonous mushrooms. So it's almost like the feeling itself, the distress that we have is like a cow pat. It's shitty.
Yeah,
It's not great.
it's absolutely shitty. Sure.
It's shitty. And then from that cow pat grow these poisonous mushrooms. And
Mm.
the thoughts, the poisonous thoughts that we start to have, the meaning that we start to make about this distress, that's really poisonous. So I'm often saying to people, let's not eat the poisonous mushrooms. Don't go there. Stay with the cow pat. The cow pat itself, that can be quite fertile ground.
Hmm.
So the number one practice I have is I call it feeling it in the body. And it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's just
Mm.
someone's distressed and when they come to me in a psychotherapy session, someone's they're in distress and they're like, I'm feeling overwhelmed about this. I got to make a decision about that. And sometimes I feel about it, but sometimes I don't know. And we're just lost in those moments. We get lost in the profusion of painful, slightly toxic or tainted meanings that we're making about this distress that we're
Hmm.
having right now. And there's this sense, if I can understand this the right way, if I can think the right thoughts about this, I won't have to feel this pain anymore. I can get resolution around the pain. And sometimes people come to therapy saying, I just got to figure out, I want you to help me understand some of this. So I got to figure out this way. And very quickly I have to say, that's not how I do therapy. That's not how therapy works from my perspective. We're not thinking our feelings here. And the distress, the undigested distress doesn't get digested by thinking about it in the right way. Sometimes some new perspectives, some new reframes are really powerful and useful, but the
Hmm.
heart of it is we have to feel it to heal it.
Mm.
The undigested distress gets digested by our feeling nature. It has to pass back through our feeling nature. In other words, we have to say, okay, you're really upset right now. I really hear that. And it's difficult. And you're having these thoughts about that, and you're unsure about this, and this is difficult for you, and that feels like it's something you really got to get clear on. Okay.
Hmm.
For right now, is it possible to just feel how this is showing up in the body right now? How are you sensing this? How are you experiencing this?
Mm.
And sometimes that's a shock to people. They say, well, I don't even, hang on, wait, what?
Mm.
Because I was so outside of my body. I was flitting around in these pasts, horrible pasts and terrible futures. And it takes a bit of effort to say, okay, well, okay, now I think about it. Well, the first thing is my breathing's quite shallow and yeah, my heart rate's going quite fast, I guess. And there's tension here. I got this like kind of sick, heavy feeling in my stomach, or there's tension in my chest, or something like that. But the minute we get to the sensation of it in the body, now we know we're cooking with gas. Now we know
Hmm.
real therapy is possible because we boiled down this whole myriad of terrible pasts and impossible futures. We can't live with. That's a crushing burden.
Yeah.
But if this is an uncomfortable sensation in my body right now, maybe I can, that's okay. Maybe I can tolerate that. It's not great. It's still a cowpat, but if I compare it to even a mild toothache or stubbing my
Hmm.
toe, I'm like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, okay. I guess the sensation itself, this tightness in my chest, or this sick feeling in my belly, or this heavy feeling in my shoulders, or this feeling of lethargy or numbness, or this tingling, or this kind of
Mm.
gnawing emptiness inside of me, if I just take them on their own, if I just say, just allow it to exist purely as a body sensation, as just feeling this in the
Mm.
body just for right now, then we stop growing the poisonous mushrooms. We stop getting lost in the profusion of thoughts and realities and meanings that we're growing out of that. And we say, okay, this is the trunk of the tree. And now I don't
Mm.
have to get lost in the leaves of it anymore.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
that just might be manageable for now.
it's beautiful. And
Hmm,
what I'm hearing too is in the feeling, especially when we're not in the mushrooms that have manifested from the pat. When we're in the when we're in the feeling itself, there's nothing we do.
exactly.
Like there's even just what I'm hearing from you now is there's not even anything to fix as the feeling isn't happening because it just happens
Exactly.
and it moves on
Exactly.
its own. The intelligence moves on its own.
Yeah.
And I find myself sometimes getting in a little bit of a loop in that, where it's like, oh, there it is. And even in the feeling, it's like, okay, now I need to tend to the feeling. And there's still this someone in that's tending rather than just that spaciousness allowing
Yeah.
and then the healing. And that's where the digestion happens.
Exactly.
We don't fall when we eat food, we don't know how it digests. It knows how to
I'm
digest.
not like, okay, I gotta digest
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I'm finding like sometimes that's also a monkey. That's also a part of the mushroom. It's not the actual manifestations or the negative thoughts, but also that's someone that needs to fix and control the feeling itself.
I gotta do it. I gotta try. I gotta push for something.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that
yeah.
there's really good reasons that we all fall into that trap. Because
Mm,
when we feel unsafe, and we often experience it as an unsafety in the body, it feels like, whoa, there's a there's something I got to defend against. There's a problem
hmm.
inside, and
Mm,
all of our survival instincts push us towards action. I
hmm.
got to run away from something, or I got to attack something. It's like, what do I got to do? And so it's perfectly natural and normal that we go into that do mode. How do I crush this?
Totally.
How do I defeat it? How do I run
It's
away from it? It's
natural.
that's
We're
the
doing such,
survival. It's the
yeah.
survival mechanism. And it works great if the problem is a lion or a bushfire.
Yeah.
It doesn't work so well if the problem is some distress inside of me. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
yeah,
We can't run, hey? Where are we running?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. We expend a lot of energy trying.
Mm.
Yeah,
So it leads me into another question of just when we are with the sensation, what relationship can we create with that sensation to allow ourselves to allow it?
yeah, beautiful. I mean, that's the perfect question, really, because the impulse often is, I got to try and change this sensation, right?
Hmm.
Let me turn this around and positive thinking. I'm calm and beautiful and graceful, easeful day. Come on, come on. If I tell myself this hard enough, I got to shift it around. I'm
Yeah.
like pushing at it. No, just remember, my
Uh,
thoughts create my reality.
ooh, yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think for me, the key is recognizing what we can control and what we can't.
Mm,
That serenity prayer, the strength to control the things I can, the courage to allow the things that I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference.
mm,
And we can't control our feelings. It's like we have this, it's like we try to take responsibility for the horrible feelings that come into our body. They were handed down to us by our culture through generations. We didn't choose to have them. We're not evoking them in this moment. They're horrible, painful things that we need to deal with. But it's like if a lion walked into a camp, in tribal times, and it's like, oh my God, what's wrong with me that this lion has turned up now? Oh, what? Why? I
mm.
must be. Why I must have been thinking too much about lions. It's like, no, it's it kind of has, let me allow it to have its own existence independent of me.
Yeah.
There are wounds that have been passed down through generations, and we don't have
Mm,
to kind of mesh our self-identity with them. We do have to respond to them, and the way that we can respond to them is by, rather than trying to deny them or suppress them or beat them over the head with a broomstick, we shift our relationship to them.
mhm,
It's all about the relationship. I can't
mm,
control this distress that's turned up, but I can just maybe shift my relationship to it from one of kind of rejection or suppression or an adversarial relationship. Oh, Jesus, you again, please no.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, huh, that's there, hey, you again. I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there's any way I can find to embrace you even,
Mm-hmm.
accept, have compassion for myself, forgiveness for myself and for this culture that's gifted me this wounding. And then I can start to ask sacred questions like, what is this teaching me? What can I learn from it?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean figuring it out. It's going to be something simple, like maybe what this is teaching me is presence, compassion, softness, receptivity.
Mm-hmm.
It's teaching me who I am and who I'm not. But that's not an intellectual answer. These are kind of embodied answers that we get when we shift our relationship to the pain and we start to just
Mm-hmm.
kind of really open our hearts to it, open our
Mm-hmm.
compassionate awareness to this, and then we start to get the real learnings
Yeah.
at a bodily level.
It's like what I'm hearing from you is receiving it rather than perceiving it.
Nice.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
allowing it to
nice.
just be there and receive the experience rather than the mind trying to add something to it. It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.